You're tuned in to Shake, Rattle, and Goal, the official podcast of your Springfield Thunderbirds.
Echo's there on the backhand, scoring the save, rebound in the crease, they score!
Hosted by Matt Baker and Steve Forney. A show that's everything Springfield hockey, with interviews including players, coaches, and staff.
The Springfield Indians repeat as the Calder Cup champions.
Listen to this podcast on all major streaming platforms and wherever you download podcasts.
In his first year at the helm, Kevin McDonald and Drew Bannister have the Teamers in the Calder Cup Finals.
Watch the podcast on the official Shake, Rattle, and Goal YouTube page at SRG Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker and Steve Forney.
And this episode number 9 of season 2 of the Shake, Rattle, and Goal podcast is proudly brought to you by our friends at White Lion Brewing in Tower Square in downtown Springfield and their new location in Amherst, by our friends at Brewcade on Walnut Street in Agawam, and by our friends at Landscaping That Fitz, 847-0338. Real quick, thank you to Rob at Landscaping That Fits, who is a seasonal business, obviously. Winter, not his season, but he is going to stick around as an advertiser for the entire season. So thank you, Rob, for doing that. And I can't stress it enough, folks. If you want good, friendly, and on time and reasonably priced service, check out Landscaping That Fits. I can't stress that enough. Give Rob a call. Alongside Matt Baker, I am Steve Forney. Matt, how are you, my friend? Long time no see.
I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. Ready for the holiday week. This is always kind of my favorite time of year. Tough, stressful, emotional, everything in between, but I'm ready for it. How about you guys?
I'm like the holiday I like. The lead up and the build up and the planning and I can't stand. I get so stressed this time of the year. And now we got 4:00 games that I'll be in Vermont. I gotta go travel through the snowstorm to get back on Friday for the game. So good luck. And if you hear Brady Denniston, that means that I'm stuck on the side of the road on I-89 in Vermont. But we're going to get through it. We're going to figure it out. We do have a lot of stuff to get to today. We have some Blues news. We have some Thunderbirds news. We have fan rants to get to. So we're going to do all that. We also have a special guest, and our interview is with,
drum roll,
pregnant pause, head coach Steve Konowalchuk. So tip of the hat to the head coach for joining us. The interview I thought was really awesome. Ironically, we had to do it sort of during the day. So I'm at school. Matt was at school when we did the interview, but we were able to find times and find ways to get the coach on board. So we're going to have that.
You got to love the lunch half hour that you could hop in the back and conduct an interview. It's great.
So this is kind of funny and random, but I teach broadcasting. I actually had students in my classroom during that interview. I had one student who was counting all the ahs and ums. I had another student who was counting how many yes or no questions we asked, because you never want to ask yes or no questions in an interview. And I had another one. There's an right there. And we had another one counting how much time I talked compared to when the guest talked. So how long it took me to actually blurt my questions out of my face. So they actually got a firsthand glimpse of how to do an interview and what it's supposed to look like. And then we had our questions up on the big board so they could actually see us making sure we were asking the questions that we had done our homework on.
How'd we do? How'd they grade us?
I think we did all right. I had 4 ums, which is not bad. I'll take that. So no, it was
how about, did they count me too or no?
No, they were just counting me. They were just picking on me. So sorry, Matt. We'll get that critique somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we will have that interview coming up soon. I do want to touch on the big news coming out of St. Louis and Boston, quite frankly, which is the hiring of Jim Montgomery to the Blues on a 5-year deal. I got to be honest, the more I sort of think about this, the more strange and bizarre I think it is. I don't know if you just real quick. So it was weird that he signs a 5-year deal to be the new head coach of the St. Louis Blues. The Bruins had offered him a lesser year contract extension. He said no. And I feel like from a Bruins fan, there was this thought that there's an issue in the locker room. Maybe people are mad at Swayman for holding out. Maybe people were mad variety of different things. If you want to know why Bruce Cassidy got fired, people point to the locker room because they were too soft. They couldn't handle his coaching, blah, 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 whatever it happens to be. Now I look at what Monty did with his time in Boston. I mean, he got into a verbal altercation and a shoving match with the captain, Brad Marchand, on the bench. Jeremy Swayman gave up 6 goals. He left him in there in a game to get 7 scored on him, which typically doesn't happen. He was benching David Pasternak. I thought it was to light a fire under the team, and now I'm thinking maybe he's like, you know what, guys? Go ahead and fire me. Fire me. I got the next job lined up. It's in a city that I like, that I've worked for, that I've played for, and they're going to give me 5 years. So go ahead and fire me. So as a Bruins fan, that kind of annoys you because what have we been doing really since October, right? Yeah. So I find that whole situation interesting. And I got to be honest, the other thing is I haven't seen anybody talk about this. Poor Drew Bannister.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude, he gave his time in the AHL. He gave his time in the NHL. I don't think that the problems that the Blues have been from coaching. Up until this point, when he got fired, nobody said, well, Drew Bannister has no idea how to coach. That was never even discussed by any of the St. Louis beat writers and the people that cover the team. So one day, just randomly, yeah, sorry, Drew, you're out. We got the next shiny object. I don't know. I'm not too crazy about it. I liked Monty as a coach for Boston. I think he's going to do really well in St. Louis, but I think it was sketchy the way it ended, and I feel bad for Drew Bannister.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the ugly side of sport. I think this is the ugly business side of sport. If this had been like a Fortune 500 company and you know, one CEO was not really seeing the reports we wanted after the first quarter, and you know, something shiny comes in, you got to make a spark for the second quarter. This is it, right? But sports are a little bit more in your face. It's a little bit more front and center. And this is the ugly side of it. I agree with what you're saying. I never thought of it from a Boston perspective, you know, how you just laid it out. I don't know because I would think if he did say, hey, I've got this Blues job in the bag. If I want it, go ahead and fire me. Like I know other leagues have like tampering rules and things like that. If a guy is under contract, you can't be talking to him or his representation about like, hey, if hypothetically, right? So I don't know. Does that mean it never happens? I don't know. Who am I to say? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't.
Well, I mean, real quick, it's like the NFL has the legal tampering period. It's like, what an oxymoron that is.
Right.
It's not legal if it's tampering, right? So like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's fair. But I mean, I do think there might have been some of that mindset. Like, look, what you guys clearly, I was brought here in Boston. You know, sure, we never won a cup, but we set records in regular seasons. We're winning all these games. You don't want to listen to me? Go ahead, find somebody better. Like I could see maybe that being his stance. You know, and it's interesting. I don't want to give away too much of our interview with Coach Konowalchuk, but along those lines, I think, you know, Monty, I would have to believe, has to have a pulse on his locker room and know when to be a little bit more grumpy, know when to light a fire, know when to take it easy, know when to have your leaders step up. But then if your leaders are the ones that you're waiting for and they're done with you, like I think sports are a player-driven league. So I could almost see the players having the attitude of, we can get another coach in here to win regular season games. You're not doing it for us. So, you know, no, coach, I'm not busting my butt for you. And that happens in all locker rooms. Not a good thing, because at the end of the day, the end game is to win a game, not, you don't have to be best friends with your coach or even your teammates. You have to be able to coexist to win games. That's the name of sports. So I do kind of feel like this whole situation, at the end of the day, in a year from now, if the Blues are winning, sure, great move by the Blues. But for now, it does kind of stink, because I agree. Armstrong gave Bannister a mediocre, middling lineup. That was his roster. And they are mediocre. So he's doing with that roster what anyone probably will. I mean, I'd be shocked if the Blues go on this huge tear and, light up the standings. From all accounts, Bannister was respected. And because so many of these players knew him in Springfield, I don't believe these players were intentionally not playing for him the way potentially the Bruins were not playing for Monty, right? So I think Bannister is getting what he could out of this Blues roster as it's constructed. I would expect, like anybody, for the Blues to have a little bit extra, an added spark, but give it a few weeks and the shiny object's not so shiny anymore. Montgomery's a great coach, don't get me wrong, but I don't expect the Blues to be a true cup contender this year. Maybe next year, potentially, with some of these prospects we have here, maybe and some other moves, but
I don't.
My end is I think this was more about who Montgomery is and less about the job Bannister did.
Agreed.
I know I kind of said that on the Thunderbirds fan page, and really all I mean by that is I don't think you're looking at Bannister saying we need to fire this guy. I think you're looking at Montgomery saying we have to get this guy in the building. Right. And like it's just about getting Monty in the building. So in order to do that, really sorry, Drew Bannister, but you're the odd man out. And hopefully, Bannister gets a job somewhere else. And because I think he's a good coach.
I think he'd be a great fit in Boston.
Yeah.
The Bruins don't have a coach right now. They have an interim coach in Joe Sacco, who's a holdover from the Cassidy administration. And again, I know this is a Thunderbirds podcast. Nobody cares about the Bruins, but I think he would work out well here. In terms of Monty, I think he's more likely to. And again, I don't watch the Blues games. I don't listen to Blues sports talk radio, right? So but he was playing the young kids in Boston. He was playing Mason Lowry. He was playing all these young kids. It's interesting. At game 1, the Blues win 5-2. Zach Bolduc has 2 goals. Yeah. It's like, well, where's that guy been buried for the last month, right? Like you're Scott Perunovich, you're Matt Kessel, Zach Bolduc. Like Monty's more, I think, likely to play these guys, deal with what the good and the bad of what that means, basically, and roll with it. And he's not gonna sugarcoat anything. He's not gonna say one thing to the media and say something else to the players. So I think it's a good fit for the Blues. I really do. And I really enjoyed Monty in Boston as a Bruins fan. I kind of thought the whole thing on both ends was kind of shady. And I don't blame Monty. You want the years, you got young kids, you want a 5-year deal. Totally get it. But the whole thing, and you're right. I think they were kind of just like, man, this guy's too good to pass up. And you see it all the time in sports, especially football, with players, right? If it was players who was like, I want a new contract, I'm not getting what I want, so maybe I throw a temper tantrum at practice, maybe I have a couple drops, now I'm released, and now I sign with big money with the Cowboys, right? Or whoever it is, right? So we've seen that happen before in the NFL. It's kind of weird when it happens to coaches. But anyway, congratulations to Monty. I don't think Drew Bannister is going to be out of work for very long.
Yeah.
Speaking of coaches, why don't we throw it right to our interview with your head coach of the Springfield Thunderbirds, Steve Konowalchuk, and enjoy Matt and I try to negotiate with young students while the interview goes on. Here it is.
And it's a pleasure right now on the Shake, Rattle, and Goal podcast to be joined by the head coach of your Springfield Thunderbirds, Steve Konowalchuk. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Coach, thank you again for hopping on and taking the time. First off, how was the adjustment for you to be here, Western Mass and Springfield and in the AHL?
Well, the AHL, I guess, isn't so different. Being in the AHL last year as one of the coaches with the Eagles, assistant coach there. So it gave me a little bit of familiarity with the league, as far as coaching goes. Obviously, the job's a little bit different being the head coach. And, I saw that, a few years scouting, I spent a lot of time watching the American League. That helped give me an idea of how the league works, operates, and how good it is. And as far as East Coast, I enjoyed it. It's kind of feels like home a little bit. I know Maryland's not that close, but it's still the East Coast, and it has certainly East Coast feel, so it's fun. Excuse me.
That's great. When we talk about some of the things Matt and I have noticed this season on the ice, I think the big one for me is, and again, I don't know how to put lines together, but I would imagine we'd be sprinkling all of these sort of veterans in with all these young players, and yet, you have a power play unit that's got four or five of them are rookies. You got that second line of the Swedes with the Dvorsky. How did that all come about for you? Sort of having your veterans on the top line and then having that nice little second line of the Swedes and Devo.
Well, it certainly isn't by age or anything like that. It's really more of what I see as chemistry. Where myself and the coaches, what kind of chemistry works together, and our young guys they come to work hard. Like they're very professional for young players and responsible hockey players. So it's easy to do that. Like they play both ends of the ice. Obviously, we still want to improve on that, but certainly they're veterans for being not veterans, if you know what I mean. So that makes it easy. And the chemistry seems to fit there. Sometimes you can feel comfortable if you're a player playing with guys your own age a little bit, and maybe not a guy that's a little bit older. And then just putting like Pekka and Alexandrov together, and then you get Matt Luff. It's a veteran line that they've been around the league. So I think that helps them as well with their talent level. And again, certainly nothing that was planned. It just seemed to kind of evolve that way.
Interesting. And is there anything specific in a practice that you see? Oh, maybe that would work with Kaskamaki there. Like, is there anything that you're specifically looking for?
Well, I think you want all elements on a line. The first thing you want make sure you have some guys going down and competing and chasing for pucks and crashing the net, doing those kind of things. And so sometimes you might want to maybe a little bit more skilled guy to play with someone like that can go get the puck and crash the net. So that's an element with it. In an ideal world though, and I think you're seeing that quite a bit with Pekka and Ginger on a different line, but sometimes with Pekka and Alexandrov, they're the skilled guys that are working hard to forecheck on their own. So you don't necessarily need that guy to go in and do some of that work. And that's when you have a chance to have a real successful line and when the skill's playing hard skill and out competing the other team's skill or grinders. And I've certainly seen that as of late, but you certainly can't rely on just skill. If that happens, you do need to have a kind of a balance of someone that's maybe a little bit more of the forechecker and do some of the grittier stuff and try to balance out your line.
We're talking with Thunderbirds head coach Steve Konowalchuk, and a while back we talked to Tommy Cross, who was the captain here for a couple of years, and he mentioned that a lot of times, especially at this level, teams don't really find out their identity of who they are till Thanksgiving, sometimes even Christmas, depending on the type of roster. So from a coaching perspective, how long do you, give the team or give yourself for that sort of feeling out process before you really find your true identity?
I think it's, I think it's evolved here. I guess at Thanksgiving time, we're approaching it. I certainly, if that's the time that was given, I've never thought of a timeline, but certainly I feel a lot better with the way our team's playing as far as together and to the identity of a fast, tenacious, physical, but puck possession type team. And, kind of the team that the Blues want to be, like that culture to St. Louis Blues, a heavy, hard team to play against. And I feel our team is playing that way a lot more the last couple of weeks and obviously to start the season. So it did take a little bit of time for the guys to, understand exactly what we're asking and coaching and start playing together. And, again, in the last bit, the leaders, Peck has been awesome. Harrington, Shu, these guys go down the list. They've been very good at leading the way out there, and that makes my job easy. They're going out and playing hard and playing the system and playing the structure.
Coach, you mentioned sort of St. Louis Blues, right? And us being sort of the affiliate for them. How often are you in communication with the NHL club, the St. Louis Blues? That's got to be tough balancing. We're here to win games. We want to win games, but also the AHL as a developmental league for the NHL. And the second part to that, big news in St. Louis was the big coaching change this week. does anything change moving forward because of that?
The second part of it, I guess, it's so quick. I don't know as far as that.
Okay.
Like, obviously, depending on the coach, like you may do a system or two. Our D zone coverage, is the same as Banny's D zone coverage. So when guys get called up, it's seamless when they get up, and not as much teaching up there. But for the most part, they've let us have our own systems down here. That varies by team to team. Obviously, I don't know if anything would change going forward with the new coach. I guess it'll take some time to see. As far as communication, it's indirectly, you could almost say every day there's some kind of communication, not necessarily me talking to management, but Kevin Maxwell's here, and he's probably, he would be daily communication with the NHL team. And we do have different development staff that's coming through here all the time and working with players, and they're in communication. So indirectly, it's a daily communication on how our guys are doing, how they're improving. And, it is a development league for sure. I mean, that's what it's there for, is to develop hockey players for the National Hockey League. For me, they go hand in hand though. Like, if you're going to win a championship, it's because you're playing real good, proper hockey the way it's supposed to be, like hard on pucks and 200-foot game, as everybody likes to say. But that gives you a chance to win a championship here, but it also gives you a chance to get to the NHL and stay in the NHL by doing that. So to me, they go hand in hand, and so it makes my job easier to coach that way. Obviously, you have some young players that, it doesn't matter with our team or every team in the league, that at times are going to get a little bit of benefit of the doubt. That's just the way the league is. But everybody's winning within the same parameters. Everybody's got those situations to deal with. The fortunate thing here is the Blues have been very, very good about as long as our guys, if our guys aren't working hard and they're not competing, which thankfully, like, our guys have been great. I haven't had to have any issues with that area of development. Then you can still have some say in ice time, but our guys have been working really hard, so it's never been an issue, and they're talented players. So like you said, I can go out there and I can play them, and they're a big part of our team.
That's great. We're talking with Steve Konowalchuk, the head coach of your Springfield Thunderbirds. One stat that I always look at, and I can't look away from it, are shots on goal. And there are games when you guys give up a ton, but you win. There are games where you guys don't give up a ton, but you lose. Is there if there's a big discrepancy in shots, what part of the game is it reflective of, if that makes sense?
Well, I think as of late, I would like to increase our ozone puck time. If you're giving up shots, you're in your end a little bit more generally, and I do want to improve that now. Very happy with the scoring chances we're giving up. In that regard, like teams the last few games are throwing pucks at the net from outside and trying to generate stuff from there. And so you got to be careful getting too caught up in shots on goal. Like, there are a little bit different philosophies. Yes, there's some truth to being said that there's never a shot on goal is never a bad play, but I guess maybe I'm not quite to that extreme where, I think you want to make the best plays possible. And at times it is just getting the shots from everywhere, but you can certainly try to maintain puck possession and wear the team down. But, I'm happy with, obviously, our goaltending's helped in some of that situations when we're getting outshot to help us pull through some of those situations. But, the D zone coverage, this is the first time I've done this. Again, it was, what Banny was doing up top, and it's the first time I've used this D zone coverage. And, I've been pretty impressed. Maybe you give up those shots from the outside, but usually, if you're doing it well, you have numbers inside, and you're protecting the higher quality chances, and that's the most important. And I guess I'm a believer that this system, you can defend pretty well with it if you're doing your job right.
That's like bend but don't break in football. It's like you just give up field goals and keep them out of the end zone, kind of thing.
It is a little bit, right? It is a little bit where at times they might have a little bit more time outside, but you're really protecting the middle, so maybe you can't get the puck off their stick quite as quick. But again, you're not giving them the big chance. To eliminate chances though, and time, I think that starts up the ice. And again, like I said, I want to improve our team ozone puck protection, and kind of being able to roll a little bit, through our 4 lines with a little bit more momentum, in the ozone to where you still aren't playing as much D zone. But I think we're getting there, and overall, like I said, within that shot totals, scoring chances have been looking fairly even when we break down a game. So that's the most important.
Nice.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned goaltending, and just real quick, I mean, here in Springfield, we're fortunate to have 2 solid, great goaltenders in Ellis and Zarenko. You don't have to give us any hard breaking news here, but are you expecting a pretty 50-50 split over the season? Do you look at team scouting reports to then choose starting goalies? How does that kind of work out for you?
I think first and foremost, they'll dictate that. They'll dictate it, who's going to play more by their play. I think, there's development in both goalies or both prospects. So you want to keep them both in the mix. But as far as who maybe plays a little bit more, I think they're going to dictate that by the way they play. Sometimes you factor in the scouting of the other team, what style, you got a bigger goalie, you got a smaller goalie, a goalie that, you play a certain team that might just jam a lot of pucks and throw a lot of pucks and crash for rebounds. You could analyze that a certain way and think maybe you want the bigger guy, but sometimes, you don't want to read into it too much and just play the hot hand and who you feel good with going that particular game.
This is Steve Konowalchuk, the head coach of your Springfield Thunderbirds. Can I ask my outside of the box question here, Matt? Because I got one.
Yes, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So, Coach, this is I work. So I obviously I'm the announcer for you guys. I announce for other leagues too, and I don't know what happened. Vince Lombardi used to come on the football field in a suit. Pat Riley and the Knicks had a full suit on. They always looked sharp, and then Belichick comes in and starts cutting off the sleeves of his sweatshirt. And why is hockey the only sport left where the coaches dress like they're ready to go? Usually I show up in a suit ready to go. The players do. I mean, this is like hockey players don't get paid as much as basketball players and all these other athletes, and yet they're dressed the nicest, right? Suits aren't cheap. What happened? And why do hockey guys continue to keep that standard of dressing nicely?
Certainly, although you don't make as much money as other sports, you make enough money in sports, in hockey to buy a suit. But,
yeah, right.
But I don't know. I think maybe a little bit of the nature of, hockey always has a reputation of most of hockey players pretty like a lot of class, humble, down to earth people. And so maybe that carries into still just trying to be professional and look like you're going to work every day and you put your suit on. Is that going to change? I think it's, is it Tortorella who puts on a different suit, or he puts on a sweater in Philadelphia, I think. And then if I'm not mistaken, I thought the coach in San Jose the other day caught my eye with not a suit on, but I had to take it. So I'm not, it's, if it starts trickling in, how much will that change? I don't know, but we'll see. But, and why this sport's still that way? Again, maybe it's just the nature of and hockey is a little bit, it's hard to break old traditions in hockey. It kind of is a sport that likes to stay old school a little bit. Obviously it still evolves and changes, but it still likes to be a little bit old school.
I love that.
Coach, we put out a little message to fans and 2 things that they highlighted for the team, rooms of improvement. Shot discrepancy, you kind of touched upon that, and the power play. Is that a point of emphasis from you? Is that something you feel like it's still a work in progress? Is that something that as the team continues to gel and come together in chemistry, that'll just sort of work itself out?
Yeah, well, the shot total, again, do we talk about shooting more? Sure. Right. Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm sure it was last game, guys were passing up a couple shots. Let's make sure sometimes we don't have to have the perfect opportunity to put shots on goal. And we talk about that. Do I talk about that to the point that I'm paralyzing guys and thinking they just got to shoot everything no matter what? It certainly hasn't gotten to that point. I think at times we're making some pretty nice plays, especially in Hartford by where they could have shot before, but then they find the guy back door, right? So sometimes it is a fine line. I do want to get more shots, and I always do want to outshoot the other team, so I'm not going to lie about that. But again, I think that this more than worrying about shots, it's just wanting to start creating more and more ozone time, and that'll come, and that also helps less shots against, but by doing that. So that's more of the focal. The game itself is more of a focal point, the different zones and the different parts of the game than it is the actual shot clock. That'll kind of take care of itself, in my opinion. Yeah, and the power play, it scored a couple goals of late, a couple games ago, and that's a good sign. And we work on it a lot. The players work on it, and they take it serious. Certainly, to keep growing where we want it to get to, like our team for wins, it has to be better. It has to be better with getting results. But you know what? Through the early part of the season, and again, it's not an excuse because a lot of American League teams go through the same thing. We've had different interchanging parts on both units and new guys and a bunch of new guys together where you're, maybe the goal line plays and those type of plays, the timing's important, when to release and when to stay in front. And so some of that's just trying to stay together and consistent with the unit. And I think of late, we've been able to do that a little bit. We talk about we kind of got the young unit there that it turned out with Kazgamaki and Devo, and then your Pekka and Luff on the other one. So again, it kind of just worked out that way, but it'd be like, it's nice to try to keep it together, keep the units together and build something. And part of that's on them, right? If it's working or at least maybe not scoring and it's working, chances it's easier to keep it together and you can get the ball rolling. If they're going in and they're having a hard time getting pucks set up and things like that, and then you got do we got to change it? And then if you got to change it too much, that's not ideal because you can't build the chemistry. So sometimes it can be a little bit of a balancing act. And one thing I've learned about both specialty teams at all levels, it's a lot of times it's momentum. You get a unit that starts feeling good about themselves and they can start clicking in a hurry. And so I know there's good days ahead for our power play, and our guys are playing better and better 5-on-5 hockey, and that's gonna trickle into the power play, and they'll play better and better there. And penalty kill is same thing. It's momentum. When you're going over the boards and you're gonna get that kill, you can get some momentum. You get the ball rolling, and it starts to feel pretty good.
That's great. Coach, last question for me. We really appreciate your time today. 3-3 coming up. The time of the games is a little different than we're used to. We got a holiday thrown in the middle of the week. I mean, we even got weather that's going to be weird this week. So it's definitely kind of a strange, I don't know. It's just one of those the holidays are always just weird. Any sort of different approach to the team and sort of their mental state, their psyche from you as we head into the holiday and the 3-3?
Well, the holiday with the Form 4, you're not going to touch the ice or the 3-3 at 4:00. We have the 4:00 games that are, you're not going to morning skate. So the day before, that's Thanksgiving, you're going to want to touch them on the ice, but we'll get them earlier, get them out, let them enjoy their holiday, a little day break with their family. I think that's important. So that'll be a little bit different routine for a day before for a game. And then the 4:00 games, they're unique to me. I've had 3, 5, and 7, 1, 2, but 4 is a little bit different. But I'm sure the guys will be able to plan their meals and sleep accordingly. We'll adjust our meeting times, and it really just starts with the preparation that you are getting your sleep, you are eating properly, and then when you get to the game, it's game time, and get the competitive juices going and go after it.
Nice.
Coach, my last question, and thank you again for your time. The makeup of this team, right? We strong veteran leadership, young guys, prospects. Does that help you from a coaching standpoint? Intermissions, are you letting the boys talk to them and they're working things out on their own, or does that sometimes need a little bit from you?
I think it's I'm not a big talker in between periods. I like to go in and give 1, 2, maybe 3 points. I think it just should be especially at this stage of the game, just reminders, guys. We need to get on the forechecker. Where's our third man high or D zone coverage? Let's box out a little bit. Those are just or maybe it's a breakout or something a team's doing that we can make a small little adjustment. But it doesn't need to be a lot of talking. They know the systems now at this point. So I try not to really overload them. just again, like I say, 2 or 3 different things. And then for the most part, it'd be the veterans in there that do the talking. There's been a couple times where obviously, I had to go in and maybe be a little bit grumpier than normal. But then there's other times you can feel your team though that, I think early on was a little bit, I don't know if fragile is the right word, but early on, like, they needed a little boost. Like they're trying and they weren't getting the results in a couple periods. And I'm talking way early and you just kind of fill your team out and they need a little bit of encouragement. And then, they seem to be able to get back on track. So there's a little bit of that's just your coaching fill. But for the most part, I like to keep it pretty short in between periods.
Well, Coach Steve Konowalchuk of your Springfield Thunderbirds, we're thrilled to have you here in Springfield. I know the fans are really excited. They like what they've seen so far. So do we. And we wish you all the best moving forward. We wish you good luck this weekend. We wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
See ya.
See ya.
And there goes the head coach of your Springfield Thunderbirds, Steve Konowalchuk. Any takeaways, Matt, off the top from that interview?
I mean, well, what a nice guy. I mean, giving us 20, 30 minutes of his afternoon to chat with us and hear some insight. I really liked when he talked about like his role. Doesn't like to talk a lot. And I was curious to see, is he used I'm grumpy some days more than others, but it seems as though he understands what knowing who your players really means. Right. And, right off the top, we ask him, well, how did you fall in how did the lines fall into place? And well, they, you notice chemistry and he gave a little bit of insight as to what he's looking for when creating lines. And it seems to me like he's saying, listen, player, this is what you're good at. This player, this is what you're good at. Together, this makes a great pairing, right. and not trying to make a player do something that they're not comfortable with or they're not naturally going to do. And in a sport like hockey, you want it to come instinctually. And I think that's really, putting the Euros together, they play a little bit more of that style hockey. So they're going to be potentially used to a different move here and there, this slash, this cut to the net, this crash, this forecheck. And so it's just fascinating, getting a quick glimpse into how he creates his lines. And then when he steps up as the leader, when the leaders are the leaders and all that. And so just a great interview. And I'm glad we had the time to chat with him for a little bit.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And, I found it fascinating when he was talking about the coaching change in St. Louis. And I think he said something along the lines of, Drew Bannister had us organizing this style of defense, which he wasn't, I don't know if he said he's not familiar with or it's new to him or something like that, but he said it's working. Yeah. And so now I'm interested to know if Monty's going to come in and kind of switch that up. And I would love to be a fly on the wall in that conversation between Monty and Coach Konowalchuk. Well, now I want you playing this style of defense.
Yeah.
And if there's any pushback and saying, well, no, like we're doing this and it's working really well. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just back and forth. It would be fascinating.
And along those lines too, we talked a lot about the shots and, being outshot. And we've sort of had a feeling that it's been like that for a while. And maybe that was also a Bannister thing where last year it's shot away from those danger areas, those high stress areas. I think this year they're doing a better job of playing off puck defense and clearing the puck than they were last year, which is why you're not leading to as many goals. But that was an interesting point to hear. Like, this is how Banny wanted us to set up the defense and shots from the perimeter. We have confidence in our goalies to make the save. And as long as you're making the saves that you should, I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, and he was alluding to this, that is added stress. There's less room for error, and it's less time that we have on attack. So, yeah, sure, of course, we want to have that shot discrepancy narrowed a bit. But at the end of the day, no points are given for a shot. It's for
Right.
letting in a goal. And right now it is working. So
Right. And you nailed it. If you have Bennington, Hofer, Zarenko, and Ellis playing the way they're playing, shoot the puck 40 times. What do I care?
right. Yeah.
They're not letting in bleeders. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they're so no, totally. So that was fascinating, and a huge thank you to the coach. Huge thank you to Ryan Smith, obviously, for hooking that up. He's the guy who we go through to get all of our players and coaches. He's the media liaison. So huge thank you to Ryan for that as well. Our podcast, as always, is sponsored by our friends at White Lion Brewing. Their new location in Amherst and on North Pleasant Street, and in downtown Springfield at Tower Square, 1500 Main Street, the place to go prior to Springfield Thunderbirds games. I know Matt was there last weekend. A good time, good eats. Get that parking validated. Now, did you park at Tower Square?
I didn't. And I was creature. I didn't. It was creature of habit. I parked, and then as I beep the car, I'm like, oh, what are we doing? We totally should not have done this. But the boys were already halfway down the parking garage at MGM. So, yeah. Sorry.
We'll have to next time. No, it's all good because next time we'll give it a shot and see if you can get that. I'm sure you can get that parking validated, get a delicious meal, and then hopefully a quick and easy out. From our friends at White Lion Brewing. They did just release some new Thunderbirds cans.
Yep.
That are pretty awesome. So check that out on our social media and their social media as well. I did mention to them we should have a shake, rattle, and goal lager or something like that. Put our mugs on the side of a thing. That would be of all the things in my career, I think that might be the coolest. If I was on the side of a beer can, that would be awesome. But anyway, make sure you check out our friends at White Lion Brewing, not only in person, but also in your local liquor store cooler. By our friends at Brewcade on Walnut Street in Agawam. Brewcade offers arcade games, pool, darts. They have a dart league going on, and they got nice, cheap beers. They got cheap beers. They got nice beers. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a great spot. Our buddy Mike Sarnelli running the show down there, family owned and operated. If it's not him working there, it's his mom, it's his wife, right? Like they're all sort of in on the same thing, which is really cool. So Brewcade, Walnut Street in Agawam, definitely check them out as well. It's right over the bridge from the Big E. And by our friends at Landscaping That Fits. I mentioned that Rob is going to hang on and stay with us throughout the winter, which again is not his season. So what I will tell you, and it's one thing I tell my students too, is that from Halloween to New Year's goes like that. It flies. And it's already Thanksgiving. It feels like it was just Halloween. Before you know it's going to be Christmas. Before you know it's going to be 2025. Spring is the time that you want to get your lawn in order. You want to get it organized. You want to get it cleaned. You want to get it ready for spring and summer. Give him a call now and get on that list because it's going to fill up. And Rob's going to have a lot to do. And if you wait till March, he might not have room for you. So you can't call too early is basically what I'm saying. So get in touch with Rob at Landscaping That Fits. Make sure that you are ready for the spring. And by the way, in the near future, we may, in fact, have a promo code that gets you a discount. So stay tuned to that as well. We might have that from our buddy Rob at Landscaping That Fits. But in the meantime, give him a call, see what he's got going on in the spring. Make sure you get on his list, and you can get him at 847-0338. That's 413-847-0338. Landscapingthatfits.com. Follow him on social media. You can shoot him a Facebook message, and he'll get right back to you. Trust me. So check out our friends at Landscaping That Fits. So we are already almost all the way through this episode. We haven't touched much about the games last week, which again, Thunderbirds go 2-0. I got to be honest. This is the first weekend where I've been like, man, we got something. Like we're turning that corner. We're turning that page. And to me, it all kind of starts with the signing of Matt Luff, which I didn't really know much about other than his track record. But I thought that him and Matthew Pekka were absolute monsters this past weekend.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's easy to point out that since the Luff signing, I know he didn't play in Charlotte, but he was there with the team. And since then, you're really starting to see things mesh. You know, could he have been that missing piece on that top line with Pekka and Nicky, where that allows for this young guy, line number 2. And then again, and coach even mentions McGing, you have him playing third line, power play, all over the place. He's just like extra spark plug of a player, and he's playing well. Look, I think the big things for me, first, let's talk about the overtime win in Charlotte. These were my points. Clearly outshot 19-39. Not good. Not a recipe for success, but you have quality over quantity. You had huge Kaskamaki individual effort there for that third goal. At the time, putting them up 3-2. I thought Charlotte, and we talked about this 2 weekends ago, was the faster, quicker. They're a smaller team, right? But Springfield clearly were more physical. You take that Tucker hit, for example, just lighting them up, knocking the helmet off the guy's head. What I'm seeing, and this is what's giving me sort of those little goosebumps about this type of season, is how do you want us to win? We'll play Springfield hockey. How do you want us to win? You want us to go toe-to-toe with a bigger Grand Rapids? And when they weren't playing their best hockey, you lose a late goal. You want us to play, quicker, faster pace. We could do that. You want us to be the more physical team. We can do that. You want us to go toe-to-toe with Lehigh Valley physicality. We can do that. So this team, what they're doing and creating their own identity, in my opinion, is sort of it is laying down the blueprint to, we can win how you will let us win. We've got our players. We're going to take our space. We're going to do what we do. And, they're confident with their skill to win any way they can. I'm seeing vintage Pekka. I mean, you and I grew up in Hamden. You went to Quinnipiac. We saw Pekka play down there at QU. And I don't mean this in any disrespectful way at all. But, man, that his goal, that drag around the goalie, around what's his name there for Charlotte? Appleby. I'm seeing extra juice from Pekka this year, and a different type of leader. Not that last year was. I'm seeing a different Matthew Pekka this year, and so I'm really, really enjoying watching him play. Luff, big difference maker down the stretch. He's a gamer. Z was huge. Z was absolutely huge. Mm-hmm. My negatives, I don't. Maybe it's just the puck luck, but the last minutes of these periods, and we'll talk about it too against Hartford. You've got to tighten that down a little bit more. This is like 3 games in a row now. You're giving up a goal in the last minute of a period when you have a lead, and that can be that's dangerous. They've been able to overcome, and at the end of the day, I guess what difference does it make when a goal is scored? The goal is scored, but momentum. I think it does matter. If you're going into an intermission up versus now going into an intermission tied in the last minute of a period, that's stewing in your brain, and that just makes it that much harder to get up and start the next period. So I would like to see the last minute of these periods tighten down a little bit. But other than that, I mean, how do you want them to win? They're going to find a way to do it.
No, it's so true. And we saw that this weekend because Charlotte and Hartford play 2 completely different styles. Right. And Springfield was able to, like you said, play their way. Right. Yeah. And we talked about this early in the season. It's like, don't get sucked into playing the opposition's game. Like make them play at your speed. And I think that's what we saw this weekend in both of those games. You're absolutely right about the Tucker hit. I mean, we heard Silvergard talk. This was, I guess, last week now at this point.
Yep.
About how big
and go, baby.
Right. How big that hit was in the Lehigh Valley game. And so I think those things go a long way. I got to be quite honest. I'm a little concerned for Charlotte. They were up here for more than a week. Mm-hmm. They were traveling. It's not like they had a home base. They were traveling all over the place. They ended up going to Boston for like a weekend getaway on the Back Bay. That they didn't win anything.
Yeah.
And they kind of had that I think that momentum going into the Springfield game and just kind of blew it. I mean, and not just to give it up, but to give it up to the guy that was on your team earlier this season. I think in overtime, they kind of dominated and the game was really slowing down, and all of a sudden, whoever it was made that pass, just flung it up the boards right to Luff. Bang.
Johannesson.
Game over, right?
Yeah.
So that to me was massive. And I think he might have broken Charlotte a little bit. I think Lehigh Valley's in a tough spot right now, and I think Charlotte's in a real tough spot. So
Yeah. Yep.
that's good. And then, you could sit back on your laurels and say, hey, there you go. We just beat Charlotte. But no, they go right into Hartford. They beat them on their home ice. And shout out to the fans. That was like the Thunderbirds fan takeover game. If I didn't have my grandfather's funeral, I would have been there. That was the only thing keeping me from going to that game. You guys were loud. You guys were awesome. The Thunderbirds noticed, the front office. I got to assume the team noticed.
Yeah.
Like, you got to score a goal on away ice and hear the crowd and go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's bleep and go. Like, that's got to fire you up. So real huge shout out to the fans. Everyone who traveled to Hartford, made that place loud, turned it into the Thunderdome. That was awesome to see.
Yeah. Well done to you, the fans. Look, Steve, you know this. Listeners, you don't. I had trouble viewing the Wolfpack game. I was at a friend's birthday party, and I tried to log into my Flow Sports account from my friend's TV, and it basically, how I understand it, because I signed up through my Roku stick, my Roku account, when I then logged in through theirs, it kicked me off. So it sounds like, which is annoying because with AHL TV, I was able to do this.
Yep, sure was.
But it sounds like, and I'll give credit where credit is due. I sent an email right away, and I was back and forth with multiple people all night until they misunderstood the issue, and they didn't realize I signed up through Roku, my Roku account. But it sounds like, and I didn't want to go back and forth with them on this, but it just sounds like when you are using somebody else's Roku account to log into your, even though it's my Flow Hockey account, it's already paid for, that creates a problem with their system. Now, maybe if we had solved that during the game, they would have been able to reset my account, and I probably could have signed in there. But it just sounds like it's a bit of a problem if you're using other people's Roku accounts to log into your account, which is annoying.
Yes.
However, look, we know Hartford. We know them well. We're going to see them early and often in the season. But again, you have that Matt Rempe goal, a minute left in the game. I'm sorry, in the period. And was it 13 or so seconds later? Silvergard answers.
Silvergard, 13 on the nose. Yep.
So 13 seconds later, Silvergard answers. Again, it's just, how do you want us to beat you, folks? Now, right now, I think I look, I don't think this is, fans, we're going to lose a game soon. But right now, they're how do you want us to beat you? And they'll beat you. And you let up a tough goal to Rempe, a redirection that beats Ellis, and Sylvie answers. So they're playing complementary team hockey right now, and get the goosebumps, get the chills, enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah. And, it's not this simple. There's other factors at play here, but, the Thunderbirds are in sixth place with 17 points. Second place, Wilkes-Barre has 19.
Mm-hmm.
So you're 2 points out of second place. Like I said, it's not that easy. You've played 17 games. Wilkes-Barre's played 14. Charlotte's played 15. They're both ahead of you. So they've played less games, but from where we were a month ago, this has been a nice little run. And I don't see, especially after talking to Coach, I just don't see them having another one of those lose 4 in a row, lose 5 in a row, lose. Like, I feel like, and even Samantha was talking about it in her thing, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose.
Right.
I feel like that they are more capable of going win, win, lose, win, win, lose.
Right. Well, what was Matt Luff's comment, number one star?
Oh, I
loved night?
That. Loved that.
We're the best team in this league.
We're the best team in the league.
Now, it doesn't matter anything else. If you in that locker room believe that this is, and I wish I brought this up to ask Coach this. This is, but again, fans, me, like, I'm all into the psyche of sport and the psyche of an athlete. And I know this from coaching my young kids from the age of 10. I preach this. You cannot go into a game thinking, this is going to be a tough one. We don't have it. They look fast. They look this, they look that. Right. And I know professional athletes don't think that anyway, but if you've got the swag to sit there in a number one star of the night interview and tell everybody, yeah, we're the best team in the league. And when you have the play then to back it up, I'm with you. That gives me the confidence to, this team doesn't expect to lose, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, win. They expect to win, 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 tie, win, win, right? That's what they expect. And I would imagine when you're playing this good as they are right now, that momentum carries you. And all it is, points in 5 straight games, winning 4 points in 5 straight games. And now you're back at 8-8. And if you say, let the season start now, you're 8-8, start fresh. If you win 2 out of 3, 66% winning, done, take it.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah. And so that's where I'm at.
Oh, totally. And I think, I kind of felt bad for Kevin, and I mean, no disrespect to Kevin, but Luff was kind of just like, what are you talking about, man? Like, we're the best team in the league. Like, it's like, how do you think you're going to fare? He's like, well, I just think we're that awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. Like, that's so cool. But I also think that now you're finally getting, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I feel like now you finally have 100% full buy-in from the Tyler Tuckers, the Nikita Alexandrov. I thought that Tucker was by far his best weekend. I thought he was all over the place. He looked fast. He was shooting, passing, dominating his own end. I thought that Tyler Tucker had a phenomenal weekend. I thought Alexandrov was extremely active. I mean, again, we talked about these lines, but if you're getting maximum effort from Pekka, McGing, Tucker, Alexandrov, there's Leo Loof, who again had a great weekend. There's no choice from these younger guys than to do the same thing. Like, you can't be Alex Kaskamaki, for example, and watch Alexandrov and give 50% effort. Like, you can't do it, right? So, like, if they continue to set the example, the kids are going to follow, and that to me is really what's going to make this team get to where they want to be. And I don't know. I love where they're at right now. I love the energy. I love the vibe. I love the effort. I love the intensity, and they got a lot of puck luck. And we talked about it. Puck luck comes from working hard.
Right. Yeah.
It comes from working hard.
I think one thing, and to echo sort of what you're saying, then we can move on to the next part of the show here. But like, I agree with you. I think Nicky, Tucker, Pekka, McGing, I'm seeing the next level of their game here in the AHL. And I think if you're a young guy in this league, it's easy to be selfish minded. The veteran who then gets sent down, it's easy to be a bit disgruntled. Yeah. When you see the veteran sent down and busting it and laying out for goals, blocking shots, laying the hit stick, everything that we're seeing the leaders on this team do right now, for those young guys, I think it would make them pause, be like, wait a minute, it isn't about me. These guys are doing this for the team. Right. And I think that's now where you have a Silvergard, you have a Kaskamaki, you have Buchinger, you've got Robertson and Kaskamaki and Dvorsky. Hey, you know what? I don't need my individual. I don't need 50 goals this season. Let's rack up the wins, right? And right. So I think
Devo had a nice weekend too. I mean, and he didn't produce a lot, but Dvorsky was really all over the place. A maximum effort,
two-way player, yeah, and that's what I mean. Yep. So that's where I'm seeing these leaders setting the example, because I don't think, like, if you're a losing team, it would be easy for a younger guy to be like, well, we ain't winning, so I might as well light the lamp as much as I can. We're not seeing that. We're seeing, again, complementary team hockey with Silvergard scoring 13 seconds later after a tough goal Rempe scores. So this is just complementary good team hockey right now that the Thunderbirds are playing, and it's exciting then to see it and now hear Coach talk about why they're there. Gives me confidence that it's not just a 2-weekend fluke. It's here to stay and will continue.
And then you look behind you and both goalies are just balling out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that helps bring it together too. I might as well, I guess we'll get to the fan rants if you want to just do that.
Sure.
We do that quickly. A lot of the stuff we've talked about, we've touched on.
Yeah, and a lot of the
comments
stuff
too.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we've touched upon. Coach talked about Lisa Ospowitz mentioning seeing
Osepowitz. We're gonna go with Osepowitz.
Sorry, Osepowitz. She's noticing Pekka play captain. She uses it in quotes, captaining a little bit differently this year, and I agree. I think he's just sort of leading in a different way. Her second observation is the passing. And is it one extra pass? And Coach kind of talks about this too, where maybe we do need to shoot a little bit more. But I think could this be one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't? If you're looking for higher quality shots, if you're going to give up 39 and only take 19 shots yourself, and that leads to a 4-3 win in overtime, you make that extra pass so that these shots count. So it could just be one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're taking all these shots from the blue line, they're not going in, you lose 3-2. Whereas if you make the extra shot, make the extra pass, 60% of the time it ends up in the corner, 40% of the time it ends up in the back of the net. Mm-hmm. And I'll leave that up to Coach Konowalchuk and the players out there to do it. But you're right. I mean, it can be frustrating to see that. Samantha and a lot of you commented about the Bannister and Monty situation. I think, we opened the show with that.
Yeah, I don't think there would be a lot of answers to that until give it a week. Let's see what the Blues look like. Let's see where Bannister ends up. I don't think he's going to be. I think there's going to be AHL teams that are struggling that are going to fire and hire as quickly as they possibly can for a guy like Bannister.
Yeah. She also asks if I haven't heard anything about McEachran and on the injury front. So I have nothing to report there. So sorry about that, Sam.
The only insight that I have is that I feel like McEachran will be back sooner than Dean. Mm-hmm. However, a part of me also thinks, well, if McEachran's not hurt and hurt long term, do you bother going out and getting Matt Luff?
It's true.
Like, you know what I mean? Like Luff to me seems like a McEachran replacement. But again, I don't know literally anything. So
yeah,
that could just but why is Matt Luff here? Well, maybe it's because of McEachran's not coming back anytime soon. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Daniel Flynn wants to know which line for the T-Birds is clicking together the most. Could be a defensive pairing as well. He has his in mind, but he wants to know our thoughts on this one. So I think this is a good one to kind of chat about.
Yeah.
Look, I'll say right now, this past weekend, it was the Pekka line. I mean, I think Pekka, Nicky, and Luff were just the table setters, right? They just were setting the tone, setting the speed for the game. I think both games this weekend, Pekka, 3 goals, Nicky with a goal, Luff with a game winner. Defensively, I feel like they're all playing very well. They all, I think, complement each other well, which again, thinking back onto what Coach was talking about, where he's not making a player do something they're not naturally going to do anyway. This is your strength. This is your strength. Together, this makes a really good pairing. So boom, there you go. And so I'm seeing that with the deep pairing. So a deep pairing in my mind doesn't stick out. I feel like they're all playing well. For me, the line that's clicking the most is the Pekka line.
I mean, I'll give you one on the back end is Scott Harrington, who I think has just been, I mean, Tucker, I think had a great weekend, but Scott Harrington has just been so steady since he's gotten the lineup. I just think that he provides a calming presence on the back end. And I think he's really smart with the puck. He's got great positioning. He's well respected. The line for me, is the second line. And I think that if, let's say you have an injury, let's say somebody gets a game misconduct in the first period, now you're shuffling lines. I wouldn't touch the second line.
Good point.
Luff, Pekka, McGing, Alexandrov, they can play anywhere. They can play anywhere in the lineup.
Mhm.
I would keep that second line exactly the way it is. That Kaskamaki, Silvegaard, Dvorsky, I would keep those three together because, as Coach talked about in our interview, chemistry. It's just it all comes down to chemistry. And McGing can play with anybody. Pekka, Alexander, they can play with anybody.
Mhm.
Keep those three rookies together because keep it until it doesn't work anymore because the three of them are in sync. They're together. They offer different things. Kaskamaki is more physical. Dvorsky's less physical but more skilled. Silvegaard's got a little bit of both. It's like that old Nintendo game where you got to choose like the little guy, the medium-sized guy, and the big-sized guy. And I don't know if that was the original ice hockey for Nintendo. They fit that line mold so well, and I think everybody else can play anywhere. I would keep that line together.
Yeah, and great point. That's a good point. Sean Fay, with the coaching change in St. Louis, will this change the systems and style of play here in Springfield? Coach kind of answered this a little bit. It sounds like, if anything, it would be sort of their defensive system, and that's a wait and see. I don't know. That's a wait and see.
Yeah, we got to wait and see.
He also asked about Greg Miralles, what happened to him, and and then Austin Harrington. Thank you for answering this. This is how I understand it as well. And look, contracts are very confusing. 2-way, clear waivers, 1-way, all this, that, and the other. As I understand it, though, Austin, you are correct. Where Greg was in an AHL deal, the ECHL affiliate is through the Blues. So if the Blues aren't attached to that player, they necessarily don't control that through the ECHL as well. So if he's released here in the Thunderbirds, free agent, would you call it, to move down into the ECHL, I believe. So that's as I understand it. I do believe the call-up can still happen to Springfield. But again, maybe not. It's a very confusing.
Yeah, it is.
And not making sense to my mind kind of thing.
And and I liked Miralles. I thought he was a nice little player. I was getting sort of Jamison Reese vibes, and maybe it's Jamison Reese. There was somebody last year who I liked, who was just kind of let go, and I don't know if it was Reese or somebody else, but
Reese was controlled by Charlotte.
He was right. He was a Carolina guy,
and then he ended up kind of, the Carolina kind of sent him back to the Checkers. But
yeah, okay, so maybe it's not
he was one of those players where like he scored points in the past, but here in Springfield he just wasn't playing.
Yeah.
He was playing less than Sam Bitten.
Yeah, so I think I'm more closer leaning toward what Austin said as a response to where the contracts are so convoluted that it wasn't working out, and why they felt the need to cut him, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the contract limits are. Sometimes I see these rosters and these guys, these teams have like 9 scratches, and I'm like, how do you have so many guys on your roster? So I don't know what the max is. I don't know what the minimum is. I don't know injuries, those sort of things. But wish Greg Miralles all the best because he was he was a nice little player there for a month and a half.
Yeah, and then everything else, folks. Again, we'll just echo. Yeah, we know Lola. We know they're
400,000 shots.
400, which is, she's close. She's almost there. They're close to that. We get it. But you're right. Quality versus quantity. If they're not getting in the back of the net, hey, it's what they expect to happen. Again, I kind of feel like you're leaving yourself little room for error. You've got to clear the puck. You've got to play off puck defense. You got to lift sticks, no rebounds. These past 2 weeks, they've been able to do that. But you're kind of playing with fire a little bit there. And then, really just a lot of comments about the team is meshing. And yes, we know this. It's evident 5-game point streak, and hopefully it continues onto this holiday weekend.
Mm-hmm, no doubt. So looking ahead real quick as we talk about the weekend coming up, and we mentioned it with Coach, it's kind of a weird thing going on. 4:00 games, which I'm not used to, but I'm glad my family's coming Saturday night. So we got the whole family in the building Saturday. Why not? 4:00 game. But Black Friday game against Utica, 4:05 puck drop. Let me just back up a little bit. So we've been usually doing the Wednesday night games.
Mm-hmm.
before Thanksgiving, those were usually the Bax and O'Brien. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, Steve Nagel. The Bax and Nagel Mayflower Marathon game.
Yep.
They're not doing that anymore, and I get the impression it's because Bax and Nagel don't want to.
Mhm.
Like they do 3 days straight of doing radio, and then they get dragged to a hockey game, and they're just like, I don't want to be here, and I don't blame them. So I think that's why the Mayflower Marathon game was before the actual Mayflower Marathon. So I don't think you're going to see that Wednesday night before Thanksgiving game as much.
Mhm.
So instead, you're going to get the Black Friday game, which is fine. I mean, I got to go to Vermont, and then I got to drive through a snowstorm and somehow get back for 4:00 on Friday, but I'll figure it out. But anyway, 4:00 start against Utica. Deuces Wild promo game. Utica struggling big time. Can't score. A lot of penalties. But Springfield's always struggled with Utica. This is one of those teams that you don't see very often. I'm nervous this one. Yeah, me too.
I'm nervous. Look, they're professional and they'll get ready as best as they can. I feel like these types of games, believe it or not, help the visiting team. Hear me out for a second. And this is why I'm nervous. Fans, if you're in attendance, show up and be loud. Give our guys juice, because Utica they're in the hotel room for Thanksgiving. It's just going to be a night for them. It's the sacrifice they're making as a professional athlete. Our guys are probably going to be with team members and family, small, close-knit group, having dinners in homes, eating a Thanksgiving dinner, watching football, and now an early turnaround puck drop. I think it's going to be tough for Springfield to find their feet early in this game. That's my concern, my worry. So, my keys to the game: fast early, get off, and get skating early, because coach talked about it. They're not going to have morning skate. So you're going to do whatever you're going to do on Thanksgiving. And then the first time you're touching the ice is before the game. So that's a little concerning to me. But what we can see with this Utica team, who is really struggling, who is not scoring goals, only 30 goals scored on the season, and only one player in double-digit points, and that's, I think he's got 13 points on the season, 12 assists, is Seamus Casey. So, I would like to see this being outshot trend kind of reversed here a little bit.
Agreed.
I kind of feel like you have to have that if you're Springfield, but nervous. By no means is this going to be a cakewalk. Utica's professional. And it's a bit of a trap kind of setup. So fans, I won't be able to make it Friday afternoon, but if fans in attendance, let the Thunderbirds know you're there, support them, give them a little bit of extra juice to start this game, because I think that's key to this game.
And show up on time, be ready to go, fans.
Yeah.
The last couple first periods, I wrote something on social media and I got blowback for it, because the first period of the last couple games have been quiet in the Thunderdome, and then I post something and then everybody's like, it was so loud in the second, third period. What were you doing? It's like, well, yeah, you guys woke up in the second period. My concern is that because it's Deuces Wild, that everybody has 2 beers in their hand.
Yeah.
Because the Bud Lights are so cheap or whatever they are. So nobody can clap because they got 2 beers, and nobody can yell because they're too busy drinking the cheap beers. So if that's going to be the case, second period, I need to hear you people loud.
Yep.
But yeah, Utica, second least amount of goals in the league. Only the old friend Chicago has less with 29. They have a goal differential of -27. Like, that's a massive number. So score early, score often, get on top of these guys, and don't let them up. Don't let them off the mat. Saturday against Hartford, again, home game, 4:05. This is the Hockey Fights Cancer night, so I got this puppy on.
Bitsy's Army as well.
Bitsy's Army, yeah. So that should be a good emotional game. It should be a big night, and again, be there, be loud, have your signs ready to go for Hockey Fights Cancer night.
Yeah, I mean, look, here we go again, right? An opponent we know, they know us. I would expect some fireworks, but we're, are we in their heads? I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing, but it sounded like, when we talked to Matthew Pekka last year, Bridgeport was in our heads. So can this sort of be a similar thing? I think Hartford's going to come in we kind of ruined their Hockey Fights Cancer night. It was a Springfield takeover. I believe Hartford is going to travel up here for this game as well.
Yeah, this is their traveling game. Yep.
They will be looking to do the same thing. So, but hey, the best way to keep a visiting crowd quiet is not giving them something to cheer about.
Exactly.
So, I here we go again.
I'm interested to see what the Hartford roster looks like. Brett Berard's already been called up to the Rangers. The Rangers are struggling mightily, and they are leaning on Hartford players to get themselves back into where they think they belong in the standings. So I don't know what, guys like Jake Lecision. I don't know what Matt Rempe. I don't know what's going to happen.
Rempe was up. He played against the Blues the other night. So
there you go.
Rempe's up. I don't know. Again, it's the AHL. So every 72 hours, things change.
Seriously.
But
so
I'm with you.
Something to keep an eye on for sure. And the goaltending, they could make some trades. Who knows between now and then the Rangers. So Saturday versus Hartford, and then Sunday at Providence. I'm kind of getting Charlotte vibes here. Providence has underperformed. They've underwhelmed. Their entire franchise has felt the shakeup of Montgomery being fired. I'm shocked the Bruins didn't call up Ryan Mougenel to be their next head coach like the Blues did with Drew Bannister. So we'll see, but I feel like if Springfield, what always happens is Springfield ends up playing Providence Bruins hockey. If the Thunderbirds can force Providence to play Springfield Thunderbirds hockey, they'll win. I have no doubt about that, based on the way that Providence has played so far this season. So assert yourself, assert the game, control the game, play your style, they'll win.
Yeah. For me, this kind of comes down to the goalies for Providence. It seems like there's almost two different teams that play. Behind DiPietro with a 2.08 goals against, Brandon Bussey a 3.5, DiPietro's save percentage 9.24, Bussey's 8.79, and the team's win-loss record is, I think Bussey's got 2 wins, DiPietro's got 6 of them. So, a tale kind of 2 teams is what it's looking at. I'm just looking through box scores here, the Bruins. So, but I'm with you. I mean, is this a team in turmoil? Is this a coach who's upset? Is it, you got to pounce on them early? I think Is this a
goalie that's annoyed that he feels like he should be an NHL backup and he's annoyed that he's not? I mean, it could be the case too.
Yeah.
So get on him early, dominate him.
Yep. That's really it. First period, and then let that carry over throughout the rest of the game.
No doubt. Well, we thank everybody for your contributions to content on the page. We really enjoy reading your guys' fan rants. I love when we get them in real time, and I'm just sitting there reading them going, that's a great point. We got to talk about this one. So thank you all for your participation and your listening, your streaming, your views. We really appreciate it. We want to thank our friends at White Lion Brewing in Amherst and in downtown Springfield. We want to thank our friends at Brewcade on Walnut Street in Agawam, and our friends at Landscaping That Fits, 413-847-0338. Thank you all very much for helping us do what we do.
That's it. We're here to entertain you folks and talk T-Birds. Be on the lookout. We might have some fun, exciting events coming up in the future. We'll be
talking about it.
We'll be announcing that shortly, so we're excited about that. Look, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say one thank you I left out was Coach Steve Konowalchuk. Thank you very much, Coach, for coming on and giving us your time today. I know you're a busy guy, so that was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, and great to talk hockey with Coach. 4 dubs in a row. 5-game point streak in a row. Let's keep that rolling. Big weekend. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Let's go T-Birds.